The Senzo Meyiwa trial today heard testimony from Tumelo Madlala Meyiwa's friend explaining how the soccer star was shot dead in October 2014. He is the state's third witness and was present when Meyiwa was shot in the Khumalo home in 2014. The state raised concerns over the heckling of witnesses by journalists, which it says left Madlala petrified. Earlier, Judge Shifua Mamela said that the presiding judge in the Senzo Meyiwa murder trial ruled that the live broadcast of the proceedings following the heckling of a state witness, Tumelo Madlala, by some journalists will continue. 3 media houses were banned from broadcasting earlier today following the incident. 5 men are on trial for Meyiwa's murder, who was shot and killed in Vosloorus at the home of his then-girlfriend, Khumalo. All right, let's continue then on the story then and get more on the information. We cross live to our reporter, Griselda Lewis, our senior reporter who's been tracking this story for us. A very good afternoon to you, Chris. All right, so Tumelo Madlala on the stand then this afternoon, someone who was actually physically present, physically there the day that Senzo Meyiwa was indeed murdered. Take us through his testimony today.
Well, Flo, this testimony is extremely crucial because it is the first time since 2014 we're hearing of what possibly happened on the day that Senzo Meyiwa was killed. We hear Tumelo Madlala, who is a very close friend of the deceased, indicates that on that day, let me just fast forward to where he says the first man had entered the house and described this man as wearing dreadlocks and having worn a hat on the day that this man had entered the house. And you would recall, Flo, dreadlocks really just sprang to my mind because you'd recall the first identikit that was issued by police, and the first suspect in this matter was Samokuhle Mbata, and subsequently the charges against Samokuhle Mbata in that identikit was someone who had dreadlocks. So Tumelo Madlala says that this first person who entered the house was he had dreadlocks, he was wearing a hat, and he had a gun in his hand, and he demanded money and cell phones. And he says at some point Longwe Twala, who is the son of Chico Twala, managed to be able to get up and push this man who had entered the house. And it was then when some people in the house, including Khumalo, were able to get up from their seats. He says that Khumalo ran to the bedroom and he was also able to move. And when he headed towards the kitchen, that's where he saw Senzo Meyiwa had pinned a second man who was inside the house against the wall. He then says at some point a gunshot went off. He says then he then sprung off to a second bedroom, but during that moment he was not able to see where everyone was inside the house. Let's take a listen to the first segment where he talks about the first man entering the house.
The
person that came in was carrying a firearm and he had dreadlocks.
Yes?
Yeah.
I got a jacket. I'm not sure, caramel or brown, but ngati deskinyana nje umbala wakho ni jacket.
Ngati yini?
Ngati brownnyana.
Okay. This person was wearing a jacket. I am not certain whether it was caramel, it was fit. Ngiyakunikeza isikhathi ukhulume. Asingakhulumi ngesikhathi sodwa kuzohlangana irecord lezwana. Ngicela ukhulume ungilinde ngikhulume then uphinde. This person was wearing a jacket. I don't know whether it's caramel, whether it's brown. Uthe i-desk ne? Khulume nge-desk ne?
Ngiphendula.
Yep.
Umbala wakho ngathi caramel or brown, but I'm not sure about the color, but it's caramel brown.
It's either it's caramel or it's brown. It's just that I'm not certain about the color. He was wearing a hat.
What type of hat?
Isigqoko esinjani?
Besisikothinyana nje sincane. I think besinamabala white and black, but besisikotshi isigqoko nje. Angazi usichaza kanjani. Akusithi isigqoko sendwangu but lezi igqoko. Akusizo lezi ithambili lezi. Angazi usichaza kanjani. But bagqoka isigqoko esisikotshi.
I don't know how to describe it. The witness refers to something scotch, but it was not a woolen hat, and it had some black and white colors, but a small one.
Yeah.
And the physique, can you describe the physique of the person?
Lo muntu ngamchaza yena buyena nje ukuthi ngokomzimba wakhe ukuthi wayengumuntu kanjani.
Fishane ne.
Person was shot.
So, Flo, that was the first man who entered the house. And just to recap there, then Tumelo Madlala says at some point, Longwe Twala was able to get up from the chair and push this first man who had entered the house. And that's where Khumalo was amongst those who was able to stand up and run towards one of the bedrooms. And he says he then managed to go towards a second, or managed to go towards the kitchen area. And that's where he saw Senzo Meyiwa basically pinning a second suspect against the wall. Let's take a listen to how he describes finding this second man inside the house.
Okay, bambe lapho. As I saw Senzo standing there, my intention was to go out because the kitchen door was right there. Yebo.
Yes.
Yebo.
Then senze bambe lo muntu lo, ne? Because bembambe mnixile. Ufike ngishaya nami kulo muntu lo, ne?
Okay. Okay. Upon arriving, when I got there and I saw Senzo pressing this person against the wall, then when I got there, I hit him with a fist. I think it's Bagela.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Where did you hit him?
Umshaya kuphi nendawo?
Ngamshala.
Awujike.
Ngamshaya.
Imayibamba uchacha zokubona ujike uzongenzela uchacha ukuthi abone.
Yes.
The witness pointing to the left side of the face. Is ujike uchacha kabona. The left side of the face, mother.
Yes. You may proceed.
Then after loco, thereafter,
whilst this person was there, held by Senzo against the wall, and I hit the person with a fist, that's when a shot went off.
Well, Flo, describing the last moments of Senzo Meyiwa, it'll certainly be seen. And he says then, once he saw that or heard that a gunshot had gone off, he says his ears sounded like they were beginning to become deaf. And that's when he ran towards the bedroom and hid his phone on the bed that had some clothes on it. When he says he heard the voices of some of the individuals that were in the house, one of the individuals, Mtoko, who was one of the other occupants in the house at the time that Senzo Meyiwa was killed and was sitting with Khumalo and the other occupants, he says Mtoko used a spoon to open the bedroom door because he struggled to do so from the inside. He says then, as he headed towards the dining room, that's when he made the discovery of Senzo Meyiwa's body. He says prior to that, there were people shouting Senzo's name inside the house. Let's take a listen to where he says he found Senzo Meyiwa, where exactly he was lying and how.
Emang street dining. Ngathola usenza alele between isofa next to la bekusel khona akila. Lokulana kune stand bese kubilo sofa alele la phakathi kwesofa ne stand.
Okay. And as I came out, I went straight to the dining room and I found Senzo laying there. It was just next to where Kelly's mother was seated. See, the witness is emotional. Next to where Kelly's mother was seated, between the couch as well, there's a stand there. That's where Senzo was laying.
A very emotional day, Flo. Senzo Meyiwa's family, the cousin as well as the sister, back inside court this morning, visibly traumatized by what they were hearing, because you'd recall since 2014 they've been wanting answers to what happened to Senzo Meyiwa. This is certainly the very first glimpse of what we're getting into, what possibly happened on that day. Tumelo Madlala, very emotional as he described how he found Senzo Meyiwa lying on the floor, to such an extent that proceedings had to be postponed to tomorrow, and he will continue his testimony on the stand tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock, and we're certainly going to hear a lot more of the final moments of Senzo Meyiwa.
All right, so it certainly did end in tears then in court today. Thanks very much to you, Griselda Lewis, covering, of course, the Senzo Meyiwa murder trial for us, which will indeed continue then.